always fun working multiple screens at the same time. All right, so good evening, everyone. It is February 5th at 6:03 p.m. Welcome to the school building committee meeting. Just a reminder that this meeting is being audio and video recorded and will be rebroadcast. Excuse me. This evening, we're going to be covering a few key agenda items, like finalizing the contractor for the bids, the general contractor, hopefully approving to get the Dingle back into the project, and then, of course, approving our minutes and a general update on where we go from here. All right, so I'm going to just get right into it. We do not have anybody signed up for public comment that I received. I don't believe anyone else received anything. Miss Linville or Petros or Margaret?
Nope.
Sorry, I'm still adjusting my screens here to get everything up at the same time. Yay, there we go. Okay. All right, moving on then. We'll review next steps from last minute meeting. All right, so the minutes. We have our minutes attached to the agenda from our last meeting, which was just a week ago. So if anybody wants to...
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you
Or
so
accept
much.
the minutes.
And then I'll need a second.
I second it.
Who was that? Was that Sean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Any further discussion on the minutes, folks? Seeing none, let's do a show of hands, please. If all those in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting, please keep them up for just a second for accounting purposes. All right, seeing that's unanimous, you can put your hands down. All those not in favor? Seeing none, we will consider the motion moved. And we can move on to the next thing on the agenda, which is review and vote to approve the general contractor bids. I will turn this over to Margaret for further explanation, and we'll go from there.
Well, let me just say, it's a pretty big milestone tonight. I hope everybody had a chance to see my note on, I guess it was Friday, I sent it. So we received the bids on Wednesday at 2 p.m. and we had two bidders, and the low bidder is Fontaine Brothers, who are in Springfield, I believe, is their current office. They are a local company, as was the second bidder, Daniel O'Connell. They have a long history of building schools and other projects. I believe I mentioned in my email that their most recent project in Holyoke is the library. So we have completed the review of their bid documentation and are recommending the execution of their contract to the committee. I'm just going to pull up the summary of what I sent the other day so that everybody can look at the numbers. But I think what we want to do tonight, as noted in the agenda, is to for the committee to take a vote and recommend execution of the contract to the mayor, who is the city's signer. Oh, I want to just welcome Frank, and I want to also thank Frank, because I think everybody will remember that in the Wayback Machine, when we were interviewing for the designer for this project, I think Frank made a pitch to the building committee that this way of approaching the project, which has been a very fast project with an early site package using the model school, would save the city money. And I think we're there, partly because of that process and to a large degree because of Mount Vernon's contribution. So thank you, Frank, for your help.
Pleasure.
Let me just, I'm going to quickly pull up what I sent, and then I'm going to take it down and see if anybody has any questions, okay? So hopefully I'm getting the right screen here. Can everybody see that? It's hard for me to see in this format. Can you all see what I just shared? Can you see the...
I can't see, Margaret. It looks like the Microsoft Word document.
Yes.
Yeah, Exactly. Okay. So this is just, I just pulled this text out of the email that I sent on Friday. So just as an overview, so the construction value that was in the agreement with the MSBA is the 7580, 780 number. So the early bid package was 5.1 with American Environmental, where Petros can give a little update on that before we quit today. The Fontaine Brothers low bid for the building was 56,869, and their bid for the alternate, the site alternate to complete the site work in the build between the middle school and the high school was 783. So taken in total, that means that the total of construction values projects is 62,813. And that is going to bring us in about a little over $7.7 million below the funding agreement, the MSBA. So down at the bottom here, and I'll just enlarge this, this is the contract value that we're talking, whoops, sorry. This is the contract value that we're talking about. So the value of assuming that you want to go ahead and do the alternate, which I believe we've heard discussion of recently. This is the base construction value, this is the alternate, and this is the total. So the construction value that the contract would be signed for would be 57,652. So
Margaret, when you before you zoomed out and
Yep.
it mentions the 7 million, is that just saving 7 million from what we projected our original estimates to be in now? Or is that factoring the added funding that the MSBA has provided to us and therefore we're borrowing 7 million less?
this isn't including the additional borrowing.
So
I mean, I should say this is not including the increased share. This does not reflect the increased share of the MSBA's contribution. This is
after we got our project, sent it out to bid, it's $7 million less than what we originally estimated.
correct.
Okay. Miss Linville?
I also just want to share that it's not like we can say for sure, oh, we've saved 7.7 million. We wouldn't want, like, we didn't put that in the press release or anything this morning because, you know, if there's cost overruns or something on an aspect, we would still want to be able to spend that money. So we don't want to like take it to the bank till the end. So just, you know, when we talk about total cost of the project at 85.5 million, that's still what we're doing. I know most of you guys probably know that. I'm just saying, I guess I just don't want anyone to be disappointed or why we're not like shouting for the rooftops about the 7.7.
Yeah, no, it's very good to keep that messaging out because, you know, like you said, until the building's built, it's not final numbers. So
that's right. And we're not, in terms of our relationship with the MSBA, the funding agreement remains the value of the funding agreement. So
I would just say that, you know, when you get a touchdown, it's okay to spike the football. That we're not going to go over by 7 million. There's going to be very little that's already accounted for in the budget for any small overruns that might happen for change orders. You guys just saved almost $8 million on this project. And it was, see, the savings here does not affect your reimbursement. It affects your share of what you would have had to pay over the cap that the MSBA puts on what they'll reimburse for. This is all your money. I think it's time to spike the football.
I think it's time to consider what we want to add back into the project, possibly.
You could do that. That's a local decision. It
For our
won't.
students.
It will not be reimbursed, of course, but you have money if you want to.
Yeah.
You know, we did similar thing in when we did the Marlboro project, which this was based on. Their savings was about 18 million that they saved under their original budget. So they redid their whole area around the high school because that was also adjacent to the high school. They built up the new street. They put in ballparks. I mean, you know, it was amazing. But that was their choice. You don't have to spend any of it, but it is a savings.
Well, I think it's great and kudos to you Margaret, did you have any further discussion on it, or do you want me to put it out for a motion to accept Fontaine Builders as the general contractor?
I do not see any other hands, but I was seeing no, oh, I see Dave's hand.
Mr. Yost?
Yeah, a question for you, Margaret. I recall seeing in your email, there was something about a potential challenge to the bid. Is that anything we should be
Oh,
serious concerned about?
yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. So, the low electrical bidder is ML Schmidt. The second low bidder is Wayne J. Griffin. There's a little bit less than $150,000 between the two. The basis of the bid protest, which is officially filed now with the Attorney General, it has to do with a technical point about how filed sub bidders were represented in the bid. And there will be a hearing on February 20th, I believe, Petros, correct?
February 20th at 11 a.m.
That is conducted by the Attorney General. The person who leads these reviews is a sort of wonder of state government named Deb Anderson. And Deb will review the documentation and she will make her decision, announce her decision at that meeting. So I don't know which way it will go. What the way this works technically is we execute the contract with Fontaine, who carried the low bidder, in this case, in their bid. We execute the contract with them based on the low bidder. And if the low bidder's bid is not acceptable based on the Attorney General, then we'll execute an amendment to increase the value to the value that includes the second bidder. So that's the process. So these numbers assume the low bidder is able to stay in as part of the team.
Yeah, Margaret, I also thought I saw something. There was another, there were two general contractor bids, and there was there was something about a challenge from the other general contractor, or was that
No.
not the case?
No.
So this general contractor is good as far as we know. So
Yeah.
no
Oh, yeah.
challenges.
Yeah, there haven't been any challenges on the general contractor side.
These types of.
All right, very good.
These types of protests, just so you know, is very common.
Yeah.
Filed sub bids. I mean, sometimes you get three of them in one project, from different trades. They're always eyeballing each other's low bids, and the second low bidder looks at it upside down. If there's one wrong pencil mark on it, they'll protest it. So I don't know what the real merit is in this, but it sounds somewhat legitimate, but it doesn't sound like it's substantive. So I think the low bidder may win this anyway.
It's hard to tell, and frankly, we've heard that 3 weeks ago, the Wayne Griffin was the low bidder and Schmidt was the second bidder, and there was a challenge on that. So they're sort of dueling back and forth around the same issue,
right.
Which is, again, it's technical. I'm not even sure. I don't think I could do a very good job explaining it, but maybe after the Attorney General lays it out, we will be able to summarize it for you.
Yeah.
Whitney, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. Frank, I would like to thank you personally as well on behalf of the committee, which you've already received a nice compliment for. But really, your guidance throughout this whole procedure has just been
Whitney, I didn't know you were on tonight. How are you?
Yeah, good, very good.
No,
very good.
Thanks for that. But it's a team effort. I mean, Margaret's group has been fantastic to work with, and our team. Chris was on a well-deserved vacation, so he would be here too. But he was a large part of that. He's right in there every minute. But thank you for that.
Well, thanks for filling in on Chris' behalf. Just one question in regards to the alternate bid. It's not delineated. What does that 783 represent?
So that is, I could probably pull up an image of it.
That's the Dingle.
That's the Dingle.
That's
very good.
Remember the bottom half of the site? That whole area with all its plantings, paving, the driveway coming up, all that is in that that estimate was around 2 million for that, 1.8, I believe.
I think it was 1.6.
It was definitely over $1 million.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
even though we were prepared to possibly vote on that, like
Yeah.
that is such a relief and almost like a how could we say no?
I know.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
in a way,
Totally.
a strategy is to put important things in as an alternate, because they spend their time working on the bid to get that low. The nightmare, and I've seen it happen, of a low bidder is that he comes in higher on the alternate and loses the bid because when a community takes the alternate and adds up the base bid and the alternate, he comes in second, or she comes in second rather than first. So you always get a bargain on alternates. So
I see Anthony has his hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted still.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Thank you for calling on me. Just to expand on, so I remember vaguely like what the Dingle looked like, but I remember one of the issues, or I think one of the things that we should consider adding included in that alternate is like a safe walk path through the Dingle, because I feel like the original design was a road, and we were concerned about, like, will the students be able to walk there? But it sounds
Yeah,
like,
no, it also had a walk path that had stairs.
okay, good,
And I believe ramps where there were stairs so that it
good,
was also
perfect.
accessible.
we have one.
Can you show us that again? Actually, you know what?
I don't
Pause,
know.
please. We're discussing that in a separate vote, so why don't we go into that a little bit more detailed when we get to the specific
Okay.
vote on the Dingle in the agenda, if that's okay. Okay, great.
Just to clarify that one question, there's an
Yes.
accessible route 100% all the way from the high school parking lot to the school. And it's someone, for example, in a wheelchair could use without having to negotiate any steps. And it will be at the proper grade.
I should be able to pull an image up if you give me just a second, Anthony.
Yeah, like I said, I think we'll go over that specific in more detail when we're ready to officially vote that alternate back in and go over some more detailed discussion of the Dingle. Right now, we're going to be looking to entertain a motion to accept Fontaine Brothers as the GC, and then we'll go into further discussion about the bid alternate, and then we'll be officially voting that back into the project. So there'll be plenty more time to discuss that specific detail.
Do we have to take up the alternate first to accept it before we give it to the
I
GC?
think we have it in the reverse order of, because we're accepting Fontaine as the general contractor regardless of the alternate, and then we're going to vote to add the alternate back in. But if you'd like, we can certainly take it out of order and do the alternate vote first.
I just want to make sure it's in the right order. It seems like if we're going to have Fontaine do it for that amount, that includes the alternate. So we should probably vote for the alternate first.
Yeah, we can do that, or we can, yeah, we certainly can. Okay, so let's just continue discussion on the Dingle then, while we're currently at it. So as we've been discussing, and as you guys see here, the bid alternate came in significantly under the estimated budget for it. So if you guys could pull up an image of what that project would look like, that would be helpful to add to the discussion.
Yeah.
If anybody has any questions or point of clarity they need on exactly what this additional project entails, feel free to ask. But why doesn't someone from Frank's office just give us a quick, brief overview again of what the Dingle project includes?
Thanks. I'm the only one from Frank's office right now.
Sorry, Frank. Welcome, Frank.
All the hard workers are taking a well-deserved vacation. The Dingle is just everything below the parking lot area. You see the main parking lot?
Can you all see my cursor and the red dotted line?
No, we did have in the upper right-hand corner, that's a retention alternate. I think that was actually in.
Yeah, I think the dotted line ended up expanding to include this, but
we put that in because that was your drainage for during construction as well. That's basically a drainage retention area. But what we have here is the road that is, it's 20, I think it's 20% maximum slope. So it's a very mild thing, negotiating that going up. You can see that gray area. That's the main part of it. The accessible paths, there's one completely accessible path that you don't even have to do stairs or anything. It goes up
Which
like
is this
Margaret,
one.
right there. It's 100% within acceptable means, which means the slope is no greater than 1 in 20, which is allowed, is considered accessible. And that's
So that's, Anthony, that's this path. If you can see my cursor, that it goes here. And then it takes a bit of a detour in order to keep that accessible grade. And then there's a steeper version where there are steps.
You can have steps there. And that way you can, people that are just walking and need to get there quickly, that are not wheelchair bound, they can actually take that quicker step up the steps and then into the school area. But the other great thing that this does is, if you could go down, I could see the Dingle, the whole thing. The buses, as they arrive, are going to be coming this route. They'll be coming up and then into this, and then turning up this straight to Chapin Street. There's that little street right there. So the buses will just line up there, drop off right at the plaza. Kids go in and then out. So this really reduces a lot of traffic on the other end. So this is really what we wanted. We had a secondary scheme if the Dingle were not accepted, and the major was that we would have just circulated the buses coming in. I guess it's from what's the street on the far left? That is Carlton Street. So the buses would have to come in there and come in and take a left up,
go this way
to the back, and then come back around and drop off, and then have to go out. You see, so that would have been the secondary route. The one we have now, because of the Dingle, it separates things very nicely, and it gets the buses on and off the site quickly. It gives a lot of area for queuing for the buses. So they'll be queuing from about the top of the road around the corner and out toward Chapin Street. So they'll be able to drop the kids off, and it should be a pretty efficient way of getting everybody in school.
And it alleviates the neighborly complaints about buses idling. Granted, we tried to alleviate that now anyway, but still, buses won't be sitting on our public ways.
No.
So that's great. Sean, you had a question?
Yeah, I did. So thank you, Frank. Thank you for everything. This is great. So as the buses approach from the Dingle and they drop off in the front, are you talking about that they're going to be going up Peck Drive and out onto Chapin?
Yes.
Or are they going to be coming back through
They
where
could.
the parent drop off is in the loop right there?
Yeah, the parent. No, see, we want them to go out Chapin. That was the original plan.
So that's that'd be Peck Drive. That's right there. Yeah, right where your hand is, Margaret.
Yeah.
The only thing is, what I'm thinking is, it's going to be tough navigating that tight corner there. Like, as you can see with the plantings that you have there, and yes, it's beautiful, but the amount of how large buses, it's going to be a tight turn for them.
Yeah, we may have to take that into consider. I think this was an early take on it, so we can take another look at that.
I will say this image is from August.
Yeah.
So it's probably not. I don't think we have a rendered version of the final one.
Right.
I just pulled this up because it's easy to see on the screen.
Yeah, so that's an excellent question, though. And I would also say that there still are options for buses to go out. What we wanted to do by going out toward Chapin on Peck, I guess you were calling it, is that would separate, the vehicular, the parent drop-offs in the front from the bus vehicular traffic. So that way, that was the idea of it. When the school starts getting used, there are options here of how you could do this, and so but we think that would be a good way to go.
Yeah, that's absolutely, that sounds great.
Yep.
Sean, too, I know you weren't here with us yet when we initially reviewed this, but the Dingle will also, if I'm not mistaken, have a gate as well, so it can't be used as a throughway and out of school hours. Like, the public won't be able to have access to it to drive.
That's right.
Right, it'll be like
going to be a gate here.
Yeah, it won't be a cut through street.
Here.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll be Right, it'll be like Ian White, and I know we talked about maybe trying to electrify that in some way, or if it's manual, where the custodians just have to go down at a certain time and lock it up for the day, or whatever it is.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
want that to be buses only, really.
Yeah.
It's a buses only. That's easy to do. It's going to say buses only. And see, there's no, that we don't expect any vehicular arrivals there, regular cars, I mean.
Yeah.
So we want to keep them separate. And that's really it's always a primary focus of site plans for schools, try to separate the bus loop from the from the automobile loop.
And then one of the other key highlights too that, I just don't want to be missed is like how user friendly this will be for the students coming back and forth, and the ability to have it be like almost an outdoor learning space. So you'll see like the big circle, the big green circle, they're protecting one of our big old trees. And if I'm not mistaken, that included like almost like a seating built into the hillside so that can be a learning center. I know we talked about identifying plants and trees and things like that along the walk. So that way it's, has a science, component to it as well. And it will also be heavily lit. If I'm not mistaken, that's what all the pink and yellow is, right? Those are the various lighting fixtures
No,
that
I
we
think
have to illuminate it.
the yellow
Okay.
light. See the little yellow dots all the way up the street,
These ones.
all the way around.
So is there lighting on the pedestrian walkway?
Yes, I think those are little bollard lighted. So,
Okay.
they're sort of like maybe up to about a foot or a foot and a half high, just for sort of ground level lighting. So it'd be very attractive at night, I mean, when you have those on. So, but yes, that's
Did
lighting.
you have a question or a statement?
Mr. Collimar actually does. Thank you.
Yes, you brought up the grading from Peck down to the high school.
Yeah.
That sounds very good, but what about the width of the sidewalk going up and down?
I believe it's 5 feet, I believe, but I have to double check. It might be 4. I mean,
So-
I believe it was 5 feet.
So no vehicles whatsoever will be going up and down that road?
No.
The side-
Well, I mean, however the city decides to use it, of course, it's a road, vehicles could use it, but the idea was buses only, one way.
This is, Mr. Collimar, I don't know if you can see it. This is the road, and then the sidewalk, which looks tiny on here, but I'm guessing is 4 to 5 feet wide, as Frank says, is about 10 feet away from the road. But the road is limited to vehicles that the district decides are going to go there, which at this point we understand to be buses and emergency vehicles.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Collimore. Mr. Yost? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, here we go. So, just to make a statement, I mean, I admit this does look very good, and, I'd asked before it was to be modified to a smaller scale, but I guess it turned out that wasn't feasible. So my preference would be, since we decided we could live without this, and it's not gonna affect, the kids' education in any way, I'd rather forego this so that we can maximize our savings for our residents, our taxpayers.
All right. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Yost. Does anybody
Welcome.
have any further? Oh, I'm sorry. Were you done? Okay, he muted
Yeah,
himself.
that was it. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to make sure. Anybody else have any other questions or concerns they want to raise before we entertain a motion to approve adding the alternate bid package back in?
I think I will say that if we are going to see the picture, the updated one, to see the question that the other Sean has regarding the space and turning when the buses are turning. If we can see that picture later, that would be good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the buses go that way now. They just come in that way versus leave that way. So, definitely of note. All All right, seeing nobody else, I'll entertain a motion to add the alternate bid package back into the project. And of course, keep in mind, we have time for further discussion during the vote. So I'll entertain a motion to add that back in.
I'll make a motion to add that back in.
Thank you, Mr. Lubold. In a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Sheedy. Okay, so any further discussion on what exactly questions or concerns on what we're voting on, or not seeing none? All right, so if everybody who's in favor of adding in the alternate bid package back into the project, please raise your hand, keep it there for a moment, so that we can take the vote, please. I love that Petros takes pictures to make sure it's accurate. So smart.
Ksenia taught us all that trick.
Mr. Garcia, were you?
I'm abstaining.
Fair enough. You make the budget. All right, so if we could all lower our hands, are you guys good?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll give a second for the hands to come down. All right, great. Thanks, Kathy. And then any opposed, please feel free to vote now. Recorded. So we have one abstain, one on the no, and then so I believe that makes 6 on the yes. 6, 7, 8, 8 yeses, 1 no, 1 abstain. So congratulations, everybody. We are voting to add back in the bid alternate, aka the Dingle package. And so now I will entertain a motion to accept the Fontaine Builders as the general contractor with a low bid and authorize our operations manager to execute the contract with Mayor Garcia.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Sheedy. Any further discussion, folks? Any questions, comments, concerns?
I'd like the total amount appropriated to be included in the motion language, please.
Sure. Can we get that pulled back up on the screen, please, Margaret?
57,562,000.
Thank you, Mark.
56,869,000 is the base, 783,000 is the alternate. The total is 57, as Mark says, 57,652,000.
All right,
Thank you.
please add that into the record for the minutes, the exact total. Of course, obviously there's variances there, but for the record. All right, great. All those in favor, please raise your hands.
Can you go off screen share, whoever's sharing, because it makes it harder.
Oh,
to see.
sorry. My
Everyone.
apologies. That was me.
All right, great.
I didn't see Josh's as I was
Probably
marking.
abstaining again because it's budgetary.
What?
So,
Are you abstaining, Josh, or not?
And well, I think the recommendation comes to me.
Oh,
it's just fine.
okay.
Formalities. All
There.
right, great. Thank you, everyone. If you could put down your hands. If I have
Thank
any opposed, please vocalize so that we can give time for those unraising their hands.
Thank you, David, for your support.
Seeing none opposed, congratulations, y'all. We have our official general contractor. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I did find an image from the site package, from the bid package of this detail, just to answer the question that was asked. So this is a sort of enlarged detail from the bid document. So the buses are coming along here and dropping off on the side of the school, the sidewalk of the school, and then they're turning and coming this way. So I actually think there is not a bus drawn into this, but I think when you see the detail of this, there is a generous turning radius for making that. So I think that detail seems functional to me. So
Yeah.
okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so I think the other things we wanted to do were, well, first of all, congratulations, major milestone.
Okay.
We'll have Fontaine with us at the next meeting. And in fact, at the moment, we have the next building committee meeting is scheduled, took us several weeks, we're several weeks delayed with this one. But at the moment, I believe the next building committee meeting is scheduled for the 15th, which is next week. So I think actually mid-month meetings are good. And if everybody has it in the calendar and doesn't have conflicts, I think we'll keep that meeting. We will bring Fontaine to introduce the team to you, and we will talk about some of the other tasks that need to be taken up now as the design team moves into thinking about technology and furniture fixtures. We can talk about the process for those. So everybody's got in their calendar, so let's keep that date. So then I think the last thing we wanted to do is just give an update from the site. Petros, do you want to go off mute and tell everybody where we are?
Absolutely. So, good evening, everybody. We are getting close to the end on the early site package. Last week and the week before, we kind of mentioned that weather was not kind to us, but we're able to make up some time last week and off to a good start this week. So, the installation of the south retaining wall, that is ongoing right now. They are receiving dry material for fill, and that work is ongoing. I believe that they've now set up temporary drainage on the east side of the site, and they were just waiting for better conditions before resuming their compaction and grading activities, which they've now recommenced. We are tentatively planning a punch list walkthrough next Tuesday. So we'll have our meeting tomorrow, but we are targeting next Tuesday to be our final punch list walkthrough. And per conversations with JR Venegro and American Environmental, we think we can realistically be out of there in the next 2 weeks. So, the weather definitely hurt us a little bit, but they've got double crews out there, so they're definitely trying to get us out of there in the next couple of weeks. So I'm not sure if anybody's been out there recently, but it looks pretty great. I know Erin was out there last week. She sent some photos, so it's definitely a major milestone, and it feels good to be wrapping this portion up.
I believe Fontaine is in the process of negotiating with American Environmental to have the existing construction fence turned over to Fontaine, which means that that fence that you see will stay in place, but the owner of it will become Fontaine. And I did just get a confirmation from Dave Fontaine that either he or someone from his team can join the meeting on the 15th.
Awesome. Margaret, I wanted to also mention too, I think, we haven't really felt the need for many of our subcommittees to meet, but as we move forward and as you were mentioning now, it'll be almost time to discuss furniture and finishings and, things we're going to be putting into the schools that maybe the design subcommittee would want to consider meeting, or start having meetings again in the near future to kind of filter these decisions for the full committee. That would probably be the one that I would think would want to start getting a little bit more active moving forward. So maybe considering a March or April meeting to start looking at that kind of stuff, if you feel like that's a good timeline.
I could address that a little bit, Erin. The colors, which you probably have in mind for some of the things, and so do we. We're going to get the actual colors of actual materials when the contractor starts making submittals and samples. And what we generally do with our interiors group, and you've met Susan Taylor, she's worked on the things, and so she's very good. And she'll be putting together boards with some 2 or 3 suggestions of color combinations, because you don't just go through and say, gee, I like that color carpet and pick it. You have to see it, how it relates to the paint in the room, the color of the equipment, things like that, the furnishing color. So all of those things you have to wait until they come in, and then you can get the whole palette at once so that colors are coordinated. So it's not.
We've done our initial palette selection too for the overall theme of the building.
That's right. We will try to stick to that. But see, in public bidding, we have to name 3 manufacturers for every single product, unless it's a proprietary product, which they're not. So their colors differ slightly, so the combinations can change a little bit. But we're going to try to, that was used as a guide, but from now you'll get the actual colors that you'll see, and then you'll see there'll be some little differences here and there, probably better, but because we'll spend more time coordinating it. But yeah, that will be brought to your committee for your, input, and then there can be many different varieties of things, but you do have to select them as a whole. It's not, it just doesn't work if everybody gets their favorite color in there, and so you want to make it so that it works for you overall.
Noted. All right, great. Do we have anything else that we need to go over this evening?
Pedro,
Just,
go ahead.
Margaret, and Petros and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. With the handover of the safety fence, there's an exposure on Northampton Street that was damaged by a tree early on. I don't know if that's been repaired yet, but it's dangling into the pathway of the sidewalk. Has that been repaired yet, Sean, do you think?
No, it hasn't. So our last site meeting that we met at, it got pushed back enough where the sidewalk machine could plow the snow, and I pulled the cones off of it. And so what we talked about at the last site meeting is, because we're so close to demobilization, that let's get the new contractor on, let's see what they're going to do with the actual fence, and we'll get that. If they're going to keep that same fence company, let's get the fence company back out to make a permanent repair on that. And then if not, then it'll be demobilized and a new fence company will come in and we'll address any issues that come up with the new fence.
Thanks for taking care of it temporarily.
We will, Whitney, discuss that tomorrow, now that we know who the low bidder is, who the chosen general contractor is, and what their intentions with the fence are. So that is a new development, and we will address that tomorrow.
Well, great job overall in the demo, though. It's been interesting to watch from Beach Street.
Absolutely.
Crazy driving by and seeing like the other neighborhood and then this like steep cliff. Looks odd, but all right, great. Well, anything else? Anybody have anything else that they feel like they need to discuss, or questions or concerns before I entertain a motion to adjourn? Seeing none, somebody make that motion for me and we'll be good to go.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much.
Second.
Thank you so much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, I am sure.
Aye.
But just so we're official, any opposed? Hearing none, thank you all so much. We will see you on the 15th. Aaron Linville was just texting me. We may decide to hold something in person as well as Zoom. So stay tuned on the details.
Have a great night, everyone.
Yeah, good night.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good night.